What is going on, Knights of X? I hope you guys are having a good Grand Arena season. We just finished the first week. The second round is going to start later tonight. But in the meantime, I have a couple things I want to talk about on how to improve Grand Arena in general. And by no means does that mean I don't like the game mode. I'm not having fun with it. I just want to talk a little bit about ways we can improve the game mode to make it even more fun and better for overall the community on every aspect, from early game, mid game, and very much end game. Because you get to a certain point, guys, it feels like you're doing it just for clout, just for the bragging rights, and there's got to be a little bit more to it, because this is a very competitive game. I know it's very much based off of monetary investment, but there is a high degree of skill. There are players that haven't spent a dime that have made it into the top 50 of this game purely on efficiency with their roster, no encounters, good modding, datacrons, you know the deal. So it's not completely all about whale food. There is a degree of skill. So what I want to talk about today are 5 ways we can improve Grand Arena to make it an even better game mode for the majority of the player base. And the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be mostly for very early game players, because in order for this game to thrive and succeed, we need to bring in more and more players. And if they're getting turned off immediately from the beginning of Grand Arena, their experience, that's not going to be good for this game in the long run. We got to make sure those newer players are having fun in this game mode, because Grand Arena is the heart and soul of this game. It's the reason why I love it so much. Besides it being Star Wars, Grand Arena is a very fun and competitive game mode. And I'll talk more about that later with my background and why I love the competitive aspect of it and like just having passion on what I do and stuff like that. We'll talk about that more onto the later points, but we have 5 points to talk about. The first one we're going to talk about, and as we get into game, is going to be the matchmaking for early game. And I know this has been talked about in the past, but it's honestly true. Very early game players are going to have a very hard time when it comes to GAC matchmaking, because you're going to be facing players that you have no business facing at all, and they shouldn't even be in the rank that they're currently at. In Chromium, Bronzium, you name it, Carbonite, you should not be facing these players at this rank with the crazy galactic power. And for example, this is my free-to-play account right now. I've had it for about a year and 2 months or 3 months for now, and I've had some really good success. And I've been playing this game for 10 years, so I know I know what I'm doing. I'm not claiming to be an expert at the game. I think I have a lot of knowledge in the game, and I can be very successful in the early game. But I can't imagine a player that isn't following YouTube, hasn't played this game for a long time, and try to figure out what to do in Grand Arena in the beginning when they have to face these monstrous accounts. So for example, I am at 3.8 million galactic power. I have a single GL to my roster. Very, very tough to do in the beginning. I did a Lord Vader rush. It's proving out to be great for me. But if you go into Grand Arena in general, I'm in Chromium 2. That's not normal for a 3.8 million account. I just know what I'm doing, and I have really good investment into characters, and I'm really strategic in my game plan. But if you go into the matchmaking, the person I'm facing today has a Galactic Legend, has Leviathan, and they're at 12 million galactic power. It's like, this should not be a thing for this rank or even early game players. And I'm telling you, you're going to be facing stuff like this in Carbonite as well. I'm 3.4 facing a 12 million galactic power account at this rank. It is just simply not okay. So the first thing they have to do is address the matchmaking specifically for those earlier ranks. Because if you cannot get your head start in Grand Arena to actually enjoy the game mode, and you're going to get stonewalled by accounts like this, that's going to ruin the player experience, and we simply do not need that for those early game players. So there needs to be a way to mitigate those large galactic power jumps when it comes to that rank. So like, I don't know if I have the best solutions for this, but I think the first and foremost thing is that anything with an account over like 4 million or 8 million should never even be allowed to reach the Carbonite rank. That is simply not okay. It's going to ruin the early game experience. So if you look into here, Chromium 2, I wouldn't expect to see accounts like this until at least a Rhodium or Kyber, but all of my opponents are probably going to be massive, massive accounts. This is a 10.9. If you go to my other opponent, I saw him already. This one is a, let's take a look, a 9.4. It's triple my size. Moving live post, already has Sith Eternal Bane, 13.1. It's like, there is absolutely no reason there should be this much of a disparity in this game mode. Like, I'm the only person that's under 4 million galactic power. The next highest is 7.5. I'm probably going to go 0-3 this week. But that's, you know, just an example of what my free-to-play has to go through. I can't imagine for a newer player that has no idea what they're doing and having to face accounts like that. It needs to be fixed. So matchmaking and inactivity, I think that's a very important part as well, because if you're someone that has these big accounts and you're joining Grand Arena and not even attacking or doing anything like that, that's not really fun gameplay and good for the experience. So there has to be some incentive to get those players that are inactive to force them to be a little bit more active. Obviously, they're missing out on rewards, but if you're not going to participate in the game mode and actually play, you shouldn't be joining to begin with. So I think the first point in fixing Grand Arena, or not fixing it, but making it better, is making the early game experience a lot more enjoyable for newer players, so you don't see these great disparities. You don't have any idea how many messages I get in my Discord and my YouTube section about I'm facing someone with 8 more Galactic Legends than me, they have 6 or 7 more million Galactic Power than me, this isn't a fun overall experience, I'm a brand new player. And I absolutely feel for them, because it's not fun. It absolutely is very frustrating, so I think that needs to be addressed immediately, and for going forward for the longevity of this game, we got to fix the matchmaking for early game players. So that's going to be rank, or point number 1. Point number 2, this is going to feed more into mid and late game, and I think it's going to make the experience overall a lot better and less stressful for players overall, and this is something I'm going to call Fog of War. The point number 2 is Fog of War, and what I mean by that is, when you go into your defensive phase, right, you see what your map is. You can set your defense, absolutely. When the attack phase starts, your opponent can see your front 2 walls and the score right over here. What I am suggesting is that Capital Games adds a Fog of War mechanic so that the opponent cannot see the score and what your opponent did until the end of the round, because this is the problem. There's a significant disadvantage for players when they attack first. So anybody that doesn't have time to attack an hour before, an hour and a half before, you're at a disadvantage because the player knows exactly what they need to take you out, which means, oh, my opponent got this kind of score here. I need to be super efficient and underman teams that I wouldn't normally do, but since they weren't efficient, I have to do better here. Or if a Grand Arena is razor close and you have to be very efficient with your undermans, you now know the score you have to beat. You're chasing for that rush of that score. If you add a Fog of War mechanic, it negates the fact of waiting an hour early for your attacks, because, guys, I've been playing this game for a long time. I know what it's like. I'm not going to say it's #1 cheat code, wait for the last hour to attack, but the majority of my opponents in Kyber, or players I see in the top 50, they're waiting until the last hour and a half to do their attacks, because that is the best way to approach it. And if you guys want to stop having to stress all day and looking at GAC to say, oh, my opponent hasn't attacked yet, I have to wait, adding a Fog of War mechanic would greatly benefit the stress levels and making an even playing field for if someone wants to start the attack phase at 5 o'clock and not feel that they're at a disadvantage, that would help them greatly. So that might be a mixed opinion. Some people like to chase and be like, oh, this is the score I need to beat. Let's make it exciting. I have to, we're going to do a bum rush here. Let's try to be efficient and get that score. So there's 2 ends to the spectrum. But I think for the long-term health of the game, I see a lot of players tell me, I hate when my opponent attacks in the last hour. They know exactly what they need to beat me. It's not really fair. And I wouldn't really call it, it's not cheating by any means. It's a strategy. Some might call it a cheese kind of thing. But if we want to fix that feeling for a majority of the player base and be able to attack whenever they can without feeling that disadvantage, adding a Fog of War would fix that. And it pretty much just would put a cloud on your entire defense and a cloud kind of null and void on the score of the enemy team, so you wouldn't know exactly what you're what you have to beat. It makes it a little bit more playing field. You're battling yourself at that point and saying, I need to be efficient. Let me do the best sort of mechanics I can for their defense and make it fair. So that's going to be point number 2. Point number 3, and I don't know if this is going to be a little bit controversial as well, but specifically in Kyber 1, I really think that the map needs to get bigger in Kyber 1, especially in 5v5, not 3v3. The amount of times, I mean, with the new introduction to these new marquee characters, we've had 6 characters added and a lot more teams on defense that weren't normally placed on defense. I'm telling you, the amount of amazing characters that I am not able to use in Grand Arena because of the non-existent map change, it's crazy. I've invested a long time and I want to utilize these characters as much as I can, and I don't even get to use them. It's at the point where I have multiple Galactic Legends sitting on the bench at the end of an attack phase because the map is really, really small in 5v5. Now, I'm not recommending this for all ranks. I'm not saying it for Erodium or Chromium or Bronzium. This is specifically for Kyber, Kyber 2, Kyber 1. I think the map needs a little bit of an increase. And I know that might be a little bit controversial because of, having to get through very tough teams. You might need the backup teams. If your counter doesn't work, you're screwed. But I think that, and also the time commitment, you're going to have to invest more time. But I think we have all these fun characters in our roster. We don't really get to utilize them as much anymore. Like, I don't really get to use Wampa. I never get to use Iden Versio anymore. Barely use Bounty Hunters. I mean, there is a resurgence with the Asajj Ventress Dark Disciple, but I want to utilize more of my teams often. And I feel like we're at the point where it's like, in Kyber 1, we're making super teams of multiple very strong characters combined instead of utilizing our majority of our roster to have fun in that game. But I'm not saying to make it, add 10 teams to each zone, but I would think that in 5v5, you maybe add 5 per top and bottom instead of 4, or just add an extra zone, or add an extra character team or 2 to a zone to make sure we can utilize our rosters a little bit more. Like the back wall only has 3 teams. I think we can push that to 5. And in terms of ships, we have quite a bit of capital ships. Obviously, the meta is very weird right now. You bring 3 meta fleets on offense. Not sure if you want to add another 4th fleet on defense, but we have a lot of capital ships. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So me personally, after, the introduction to these new marquees, we're getting a lot more characters than normal. We're getting a whole new Rogue One team with Cassian. We have Spider Maul. We have new Luke team, like Yoda and Chewie with Tarfos forming a new team. We're getting a lot more coming to us. We need to make sure we can utilize these characters way more and more instead of feeling like our roster is getting neglected. We're not utilizing them that much. So I would really enjoy if, in specifically Kyber 1, if the map could get a little bit bigger in 5v5, not 3v3. 3v3 is very, very time consuming and already a little risky, non-enjoyable game mode for the majority of the community. I like to change up. I'd rather have 2 seasons of 5v5 and 1 in 3v3, kind of make that the rotation, but I get why they do it. But that's going to be point number 3. Now, point number 4 is going to be, I'm not sure if you guys are going to find this needed or fun, but I find this to be very fun. I think it'd be awesome if they added defensive replays to Grand Arena. So when your round is over and you can want to check, oh, my opponent, like once the fog of war mechanic is gone and the round is over, you can see your opponent's score, and they could be like a little bit of a button. Like if you go over here and you check and you go to your review, you can go over here and there could be a little button over here that says play, and it'll show the battle that your opponent did against you to see how your team is performing, what they use, what their datacron is. We already have this information on Swoga.gg. I think it would be an awesome feature to be able to see exactly how our defense is holding and show exactly the battles to what they're doing. Obviously, there has to be like a limit extent if they're doing like 69 battles of like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. They obviously have to figure that out. But I think it would be a really cool idea if they showed a defensive replay of how your defense performed in order to review and see stuff like that. So if they're not going to give us a sandbox mode and be able to test things, it would be cool to see how our defense held within the battle. So let me know what you guys think about that. I know that might not be very essential. I just think it'd be a very fun mechanic and make it interesting. Like, oh, when I get to the review phase, I can't wait to see what my opponent did. I can rewatch the battle, see the datacron, see how they performed on this strategy. Like I said, Swoga.gg is a free resource for the most part. There is a paid service for Swoga Insights for a little bit more information. But I think that would be a very fun mechanic. And we're going to talk about another game right after this about certain replays that you can watch. And it makes it really interesting. But that's going to be my point number 4. I would love to be able to see defensive replays of teams to see how my defense is holding, what my opponent did to attack them, and I think it'd be very engaging. So that's going to be my 4th point to make Grand Arena a little bit better. Now, the 5th point, and this is going to be a personal one for me because you know me, I'm a very competitive person. And before I get to the 5th point, I just want to say I was a athlete in high school and college. I was a collegiate wrestler. I was a county champion. I was an all-state wrestler. I was nationally ranked at one point. I'm a very competitive person by nature. I have passion in anything that I do. I want to try to be the best at whatever I do. Try to be the best always. When it comes to this game, I know it's a mobile game, but it shouldn't really matter. We're still here to have fun and try to strive for a goal. And my goal is to be one of the best players in this game that's not an absolute crazy kraken, whale, behemoth, whatever you call it. So, with that being said, with the current divisions in Kyber, it feels like being at the bottom end of Kyber 1 still feels like the same thing as the top end of Kyber 1. It's the same exact rank. So if you go into Kyber here, and I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of what I'm talking about a little later on, but the 5th point is pretty much, we have to add 2 more divisions on top of Kyber 1, and I'm going to explain it in a second. If you go to Kyber 1 here, I think if you go left. No, it's right. My bad. You go right. These players in the top 50 are phenomenal. Some of them are going to be one of those early game accounts, but if you go to like Sasha Isha, and you're going to see Tass next up here very soon. These are all very low-level accounts. There's Baby Yoda. He's one of the best in the game. There's Tass, Arsenal, all really high ranks. Tom Ford. You see these guys all the time. But it still says Kyber 1 when you go to their rank, right? So if you go to Kyber 1, it's going to be the same exact thing for someone out of the top 50. So, point number 5. Add 2 separate ranks to Kyber 1 in the top 50/top 10, and I'm going to explain. So we're going to swap over here, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a screenshot of another game that I play. I used to play a lot. I used to actually do Twitch live streams of League of Legends back during COVID, and these are the examples of the ranks in League of Legends. You start all the way from Iron, so that could be like your Carbonite rank. You go to Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Emerald. Most of these games have that. If you go to like Apex or something like that, pretty sure Call of Duty has it. There's different types of ranks. Once you get to League of Legends, once you get to this second row, you're pretty good. Diamond is like considered Kyber. Diamond, you're very good at the game. Then there's ranks like Master, Grandmasters, and Challenger. And these are like the elite players, the best of the best when it comes to League of Legends. Very high skill cap. Like amazing godlike players. The highest rank I've ever got in League of Legends, by the way, is Emerald 2. Still haven't reached Diamond yet. I'm trying to get there. I play that game for fun on the side. But the point being is that there needs to be a separation of rank and strive for being better and the best. Because once you get to Kyber 1, that feels like the end goal. Getting to the top 50 in Swoga feels like more of like clout and bragging rights. It's not really anything like that. So what I would love to do, and I'm going to show you guys here. These are all the ranks in Swoga. There's Carbonite, Bronzium, Chromium, Erodium, and Kyber. And that's it. Kyber 1 is the same for, like I said, for all ranks. What I would love this game to have, and this is a little bit of a screenshot that I generated showing you guys what I think would be the best. And this is what I'm recommending for the game to strive. And this is what I'm talking about. Keep everything the same, right? Keep Carbonite, Bronzium, Chromium, Rhodium, Kyber, just like that. Absolutely fine. But once you get to the top 50 of Kyber 1, you're now put into a separate league called Beskar Division. This gives you a separate rank, a higher reward, and it strives for players to actually push. And then you can have something even crazier. If you're top 10 in this game, you can then become a Cortosis rank. I was just coming up with random stuff. I think Beskar and Cortosis are pretty cool. If you guys don't know what Cortosis is, the Stranger uses it in the Acolyte, and it deflects the lightsaber stuff. Really cool. Beskar is one of the strongest metals in Star Wars, utilized by the Mandalorians. So I think it'd be very cool. And this would not only strive for players to take Grand Arena a little bit more serious besides the crystal rewards, it gives them something to work for and actually feel rewarded. You're going to be put in a separate division, or Kyber 1 is still Kyber 1, still considered Kyber. But once you break into the top 50, you get a pretty cool emblem called Beskar. You feel like you've achieved something really cool. And then you want to get to the top 10, you get Cortosis, and that brings you even cooler stuff. Now, obviously, that's going to be very hard to obtain. Only going to be meant for a lot of really, dedicated players that either are really good. Obviously, spending is going to help. But I think this would be a really fun little clout chase for players. And honestly, Capital Games, this might incentivize spending. There's a lot of competitive people in this world that want to try to be the best at this game as well. They, for sure, would drop bills to try to get that rank. I could tell you straight up, I'm a tryhard. There's a lot more sweaty people than me that take this game, way more serious. I take it serious. I think you should have passion in whatever you do. That's why I love Grand Arena. I love doing these different types of videos, helping you guys out. I have so much fun doing it. But I would love to be able to strive for a top 50 rank, which is always the goal of the channel, is to be in the top 50 of this game, and then push to be in the top 10 in the Cortosis division. That would be really cool. So the highest rank I've ever gotten in this game is rank 22. But that leads to another point. It's not in the top 5. They need to do a serious job at getting rid of all of those low-level accounts in the top 50. It's not really fair for all of us to be grinding and pushing hard to get to that rank, only for those super low-level accounts that don't deserve to be there or shouldn't be there to be flooding the boards. That's not really fun. So I personally think that's going to be my 5th spot. Add 2 separate divisions with a different rank. Try to make the rewards a little bit better than Kyber 1 because they're all the same. Being top 500 is the same exact thing as being top 10, top 5, even rank 1. Not much of a difference. So I think that it'd be really fun if they did this. And those are going to be my 5 ways to improve Grand Arena, to make it a better game mode. Not that it's a problem game mode, to make it better and more fun and more engaging and rewarding. So I want to know what you guys think about this top 5 list. What do you agree with? What don't you agree with? And also, what would you add to make Grand Arena even better? I am very open to your guys' thoughts, but this is going to be Vexy's top 5. I'm sure there's way more things that I'm missing, but I thought this would be a good start and a fun idea to make the game mode a little bit better. So guys, don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000 subs. I would love to get there very, very soon, hopefully by the end of April. That is the goal of mine. And comment down below. Want to hear your thoughts. So I'll see you guys very soon. May the force be with you all. Peace.